After 1 year, Jason Momoa confirms why he divorced Lisa Bonet. When Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet announced their separation after nearly 2 decades together, the world was stunned. They had seemed like one of Hollywood's rare true love stories. A younger man who had adored Bonet since childhood, and a woman who had embraced him fully, blending their families into one of the most admired in entertainment. For years, they projected warmth, authenticity, and commitment in a town not known for lasting marriages. Yet in January 2022, they revealed they were parting ways, leaving fans devastated and curious. Now, after 1 year, Jason Momoa has finally spoken candidly about why their marriage ended. His words reveal a story not of betrayal, but of change, growth, and the painful realities of love. Let us explore this story in 10 detailed points. A love story for the ages. Jason Momoa's love story with Lisa Bonet was not something born out of convenience, publicity, or chance. It was, quite literally, a dream he carried since childhood, long before he ever stepped foot in Hollywood. Before the world knew him as Khal Drogo or Aquaman, Jason was a young boy in Hawaii and Iowa watching The Cosby Show. On his television screen, he saw Lisa Bonet, radiant, magnetic, and effortlessly cool as Denise Huxtable. Her presence captivated him. In interviews years later, Jason admitted that from the moment he saw her, he told his mother and his friends that one day, somehow, he was going to marry her. Most children's declarations of marrying a celebrity fade into the realm of fantasy. For Jason Momoa, however, that dream remained alive, quietly shaping the way he viewed love and destiny. When fate finally intervened in 2005, it was at a jazz club in Los Angeles. Mutual friends introduced them, and Jason, larger than life and overflowing with energy, was immediately tongue-tied. For all his confidence on screen, he confessed that he was too nervous to reveal that he had adored her since boyhood. Instead, he played it cool, though inside he was overwhelmed that he was standing next to the woman who had occupied his dreams for decades. Lisa Bonet, by then already a cultural icon with a reputation for fierce independence, was struck by his humor and vitality. Despite their 12th-year age difference, sparks flew instantly. What might have seemed unlikely on paper quickly grew into something undeniable in reality. By 2007, they were not only inseparable but building a life together. They welcomed their first child, Lola, in July of that year, followed by their son, Nakoa Wolf, in December 2008. For Jason, becoming a father alongside Lisa was the ultimate fulfillment of his boyhood dream. He often described her as his queen, the love of his life, and the anchor to his spirit. He made no secret of the fact that she had been his ideal for so long, and now she was his partner in the truest sense. For Lisa, Jason brought laughter, playfulness, and the kind of loyalty she had yearned for after her earlier experiences. She had been married to musician Lenny Kravitz in the late 1980s and early 1990s, a union that produced their daughter Zog but ultimately ended in divorce. While that relationship had been deeply significant, it also carried the turbulence of two artists trying to find themselves. With Jason, Lisa discovered something different. He represented safety, stability, and devotion. His larger-than-life persona contrasted beautifully with her grounded, enigmatic presence, and together they formed a bond that seemed to transcend Hollywood stereotypes. As a couple, they became the embodiment of soulmates in the public imagination. On red carpets, they walked hand in hand, their connection obvious even in photographs. Jason often gushed about Lisa in interviews, unafraid to show his vulnerability when speaking about her. She, in turn, described him as fiercely protective and deeply committed, qualities that made her feel cherished. Their chemistry was palpable, not staged for cameras, but radiating from the genuine affection they held for each other. Fans adored them not just because they looked like a fairy tale couple, but because they seemed to defy the odds of celebrity love. In a world where relationships often dissolved under the pressure of fame, Jason and Lisa appeared untouchable. They inspired others by showing that love could be both passionate and enduring, glamorous yet grounded. For over a decade, they symbolized the rare possibility of a Hollywood romance built on authenticity. But as with so many great love stories, the reality was far more complicated than the picture-perfect image the world saw. Building a blended family. One of the most remarkable aspects of Jason and Lisa's union was how they built a blended family that felt less like a compromise and more like a triumph. Lisa already had a daughter, Zog Kravitz, from her previous marriage to Lenny Kravitz. For many men entering a relationship where children from a past marriage were involved, there might have been hesitation or distance, but Jason did not hesitate for a moment. From the very beginning, he embraced Zog as though she were his own. Their relationship grew into something special. Zog often spoke about Jason with warmth and admiration, calling him a wonderful father figure who never tried to replace her biological dad, but instead carved out his own role in her life. Jason, in turn, celebrated her successes publicly, cheering her on as she pursued her acting and music career. Their bond showed that love in a family does not have to be defined solely by biology. What made the blended family dynamic even more extraordinary was the friendship that developed between Jason and Lenny Kravitz. In Hollywood, where egos often clash and blended families can become battlegrounds, their ability to forge a genuine bond was rare. Jason and Lenny frequently referred to each other as brothers, posting photos together and exchanging heartfelt messages. Their respect was mutual, built on the shared love they both held for Lisa and Zog. This unexpected friendship dismantled the typical narratives of jealousy or rivalry. Instead, it created a family that valued connection over competition. For Jason, family was not just about individuals but about community. He grew up in Hawaii and Iowa with strong cultural ties to family and tradition. Those roots instilled in him a sense of responsibility and unity, values he carried into his household with Lisa. Together, they made deliberate choices to raise their children outside of Hollywood's constant spotlight. Rather than being paraded at premieres or red carpet events, Lola and Nakoa Wolf were encouraged to live close to nature, to surf, to paint, and to create. Jason often spoke about wanting his children to know the world beyond fame, to feel connected to the earth and to themselves. From the outside, their family looked idyllic. They laughed together, traveled together, and presented themselves as a model of modern family harmony. Fans admired not only Jason and Lisa's romance, but also the way they extended that love to their children and extended family. In an industry infamous for broken homes and public feuds, theirs stood out as something rare and inspiring. Yet even in this seemingly perfect dynamic, there were cracks beneath the surface. The same independence that allowed Lisa to gracefully maintain relationships with her past and present partners also made her fiercely protective of her individuality. Jason's boundless energy and constant career demands sometimes clashed with Lisa's quieter, more reclusive tendencies. Their ability to blend families so seamlessly was a testament to their love and effort, but it also masked the challenges simmering in private. For years, they held it together, fueled by devotion and the dream they had built. But as time went on, the differences that once seemed complementary began to highlight deeper incompatibilities. From the outside, the family still looked like the picture of unity, but within, the cracks were growing wider. The weight of fame and career demands. When Jason Momoa landed the role of Khal Drogo on Game of Thrones in 2011, everything changed. He had been working steadily as an actor, known to fans of Stargate Atlantis or Baywatch Hawaii, but he had not yet reached global recognition. Khal Drogo transformed him overnight. Suddenly, he was no longer just another working actor. He was a phenomenon. His towering presence, physical intensity, and undeniable charisma made him unforgettable. The success of Game of Thrones catapulted him into Hollywood's inner circle, setting the stage for even bigger opportunities. Those opportunities came quickly. By 2016, Momoa was announced as Aquaman in the DC Extended Universe. It was a role that would define the next decade of his career. Aquaman was not just another part, it was a cultural icon, a superhero franchise with the weight of millions of fans and billions of dollars behind it. From the moment he put on the armor, Jason was no longer just an actor. He was a brand. His schedule exploded with filming commitments, promotional tours, convention appearances, and endless interviews. He was suddenly living out of suitcases, crisscrossing the globe for months at a time. While Jason thrived in the chaos, Lisa Bonet lived a very different life. By the time Jason's career skyrocketed, she had already chosen to step away from Hollywood. Once the darling of television and film in the 1980s and 1990s, Lisa had grown wary of the spotlight. She preferred a life of privacy, raising her children and focusing on spiritual and artistic pursuits. To her, success was not about box office numbers or magazine covers. It was about living authentically, free from the noise of fame. This difference created a tension that neither could fully escape. Jason admitted that his constant travel took a toll on the marriage. He wanted to provide the world for Lisa and the kids, to give them comfort, security, and opportunities he had never known growing up. But in chasing that dream, he was often absent. Lisa, left to hold down the fort at home, struggled with the loneliness of his absence. She loved him and she supported his career, but she also longed for stability, something Hollywood rarely offers. The red carpets and premieres that looked glamorous to fans were, in reality, just reminders of the distance growing between them. Jason would be photographed smiling with co-stars, while Lisa remained at home, living the quiet life she cherished. She had no interest in being the wife constantly on display. For Jason, who lived to connect with fans and embrace the energy of fame, her absence was understandable but still felt like a divide. Fame had given Jason everything he had dreamed of as a boy: recognition, financial freedom, artistic opportunities. Yet it also demanded sacrifices. The greatest of those sacrifices was time with the people he loved most. For all his success, Jason sometimes admitted privately that the cost was higher than he had anticipated. Fame was a double-edged sword. It gave him the platform of a lifetime, but slowly chipped away at the foundation of the marriage he cherished, at different visions of life. As the years passed, Jason and Lisa's visions of life began to drift apart. It was not a sudden fracture, but a gradual divergence, like two rivers once flowing together that eventually carved their own paths. Jason's world was constantly expanding. With each film, each press tour, and each new project, he grew more ambitious. He wanted to explore, to push himself artistically, and to immerse himself in causes he cared about, from environmental activism to indigenous rights. His personality thrived on motion, on the thrill of what came next. He loved the adrenaline of new opportunities, the challenge of bigger roles, the camaraderie of massive film sets where hundreds of people came together to build something larger than life. Lisa, however, was moving in the opposite direction. Having already experienced the frenzy of fame at a young age, she now valued retreat over expansion. She sought peace, stillness, and spirituality, while Jason was climbing mountains. Sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively. Lisa was planting roots. She was happiest at home, surrounded by her children, close friends, and the sacred quiet of ordinary days. She leaned into introspection, into art and poetry, into the simple rituals of living authentically. At first, these differences were part of what made them work. Jason's fire balanced Lisa's calm. Her grounded nature steadied his whirlwind energy. But as time went on, what once complemented began to conflict. He was always leaving, always chasing, always moving. She was always staying, always grounding, always seeking quiet. Neither of them was wrong in their desires. Both were simply following the natural arc of their lives. But the divergence between their visions grew into a chasm. Jason later admitted that this difference in what they wanted for the future was one of the central reasons their marriage ended. They were not angry with each other. They were not enemies. They simply wanted different things, and neither could ask the other to compromise their truth. Lisa could not force herself into the chaos of Hollywood again, not after she had worked so hard to leave it behind. Jason could not slow down when opportunities he had dreamed of since childhood were finally within his grasp. Their honesty about these differences was a testament to the love they still shared. Instead of forcing themselves into molds that no longer fit, they chose to part ways. It was not the fairy tale ending that fans had hoped for, but in its own way, it was still a love story rooted in respect. They had built a family, shared years of passion and partnership, and shown the world what it looked like to love openly. Their separation was painful, but it was also honest. A recognition that sometimes love alone is not enough to bridge two very different life paths. For Jason, the end of the marriage marked a turning point. He poured himself into work, but he also spoke openly about the lessons he had learned, about the importance of cherishing family even amidst fame. For Lisa, the split reaffirmed her commitment to authenticity and privacy, a reminder that she could not sacrifice her peace for the demands of another life. Their story was never about perfection. It was about love in all its complexity, from childhood dreams fulfilled to adult realities faced. And though the marriage ended, the love and respect they carried for each other remained part of their legacies, a reminder that even when soulmates drift apart, the bond they shared leaves an imprint that lasts forever. The pandemic's impact. Like many couples, Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet were deeply affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The lockdowns forced families to spend more time together than ever before. For some, this brought closeness. For others, it magnified existing problems. For Jason and Lisa, the pandemic highlighted just how different their lives had become. Jason struggled with the halt of his projects, restless without the constant activity that fueled him. Lisa, however, embraced the slower pace, enjoying the quiet and the opportunity for reflection. What should have been a chance to reconnect became a mirror showing them how far apart they had grown. Reports later suggested that during this time, they realized their needs were no longer aligned. Jason craved a return to adventure, while Lisa wanted to maintain the slower, more private life she had found. The pandemic did not create their problems, but it brought them into sharp focus, making it impossible to ignore the distance that had been growing for years. Public perception vis private reality. To fans, Jason and Lisa were the perfect couple. Every red carpet appearance was celebrated, every candid photo admired. They represented authenticity in a world of Hollywood illusions. But behind closed doors, their reality was different. Jason has since admitted that the image people had of them was not the full truth. They were deeply in love, yes, but they also struggled like any other couple. The pressure to maintain a flawless public image only made things harder. Whenever cracks showed, they felt compelled to hide them, fearing that admitting struggle would let people down. This duality between perception and reality became exhausting. Jason explained that part of the reason for their separation announcement was to be transparent. They did not want to keep up appearances when the truth was that they were no longer the couple people thought they were. It was an act of honesty, even if it shattered the illusion of perfection that so many admired. A respectful separation. When Jason and Lisa announced their separation in January 2022, they did so with dignity. Their joint statement emphasized love, respect, and the shared responsibility of raising their children. There was no scandal, no public mudslinging, no accusations of betrayal. Instead, they framed their split as a conscious decision to continue their journey separately while remaining committed to their family. Jason reiterated in later interviews that the love had not disappeared. They were not enemies, and they did not want their children to feel caught in a war. Instead, they wanted to model what respectful separation could look like. Two people acknowledging they had grown apart, but still honoring the years they had shared. In a culture obsessed with messy celebrity divorces, their approach was refreshing. It showed that even when marriages end, love can remain in another form. For Jason, that form was continuing to support Lisa as the mother of his children. And for Lisa, it was supporting Jason as he pursued his ever-expanding career. Jason's personal growth. In the year following the separation, Jason Momoa underwent significant personal growth. He admitted that the divorce forced him to reflect on who he was and what he wanted from life. For years, he had been caught up in the whirlwind of fame, constantly moving from one project to the next. The end of his marriage made him pause and consider the cost of that lifestyle. Jason began focusing more on his children, ensuring that they felt secure despite the changes in their family. He also embraced causes close to his heart, including environmental activism and Hawaiian cultural preservation. By channeling his energy into these passions, he found purpose beyond his career. He acknowledged that while the divorce was painful, it was also liberating. It allowed both him and Lisa to be true to themselves without compromise. Jason spoke openly about the lessons he learned. That love requires honesty, that growth sometimes means letting go, and that endings can also be beginnings. Lisa's next chapter. For Lisa Bonet, the separation was equally transformative. Known for her reclusive nature, she retreated further from public life after the announcement, focusing on her children and her personal growth. Friends described her as at peace with the decision, relieved to no longer feel pressure to maintain a relationship that no longer fit. Lisa has always valued independence, and the divorce gave her the freedom to live fully on her own terms. While she has not spoken publicly as much as Jason, those close to her say she continues to embrace spirituality, art, and family. She remains a guiding force in her children's lives and a source of inspiration for Zob Kravitz, who has openly praised her mother's resilience and wisdom. For Lisa, the end of her marriage to Jason was not a failure but an evolution. She continues to carry herself with the same grace that first captivated audiences decades ago, proving that dignity can define not only how we live but also how we love and let go. Why Jason finally spoke out. After a year of silence, Jason Momoa confirmed the true reasons behind his divorce from Lisa Bonet. He explained that it was not about betrayal, cheating, or scandal. It was about growth, change, and honesty. He admitted that they had simply grown apart, with different visions of life and different needs for the future. For Jason, continuing to pretend would have been a disservice to both of them. He emphasized that love still exists between them, just in a different form. They remain family, bound by their children and by the years they shared. But he wanted the world to understand that sometimes, even soulmates must part ways. By speaking openly, Jason offered closure not just for himself and Lisa, but for the millions who admired their relationship. His candor revealed that even the strongest-looking couples can face insurmountable differences, and that there is no shame in choosing honesty over illusion. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more powerful stories from Hollywood's past and present, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Iconic Legend. Your support helps us keep bringing you the untold truths and unforgettable moments that shape the stars we all know.